And we're back. Time for another video, but I can tell you there's not been any videos for a while because, in all honesty, I've been out there enjoying the bike. It was a mad rush to get it ready, but our club did a ride down to Into the Valley rally, which was in early May, and that was fantastic. Made it there, made it back. And then there's another rally a few weeks later, the Rat and Survival Show. That's down at Gloucester. Now, I live near Edinburgh in Scotland, so getting into the valley, which is near York, that was a 5-hour ride, and getting to Gloucester was 10 hours of motorway driving. Fortunately, I was able to do those 10 hours over 2 days there and 2 days coming back as well, so I was able to break the drive up. But this is pretty much how the bike is looking now. There's not much to be changed, not much has changed from it. I'm really happy with the way it's working. It made it to both of these rallies and it made it home again without anything drastic going wrong. There's been a few little things, I'll tell you about them, but nothing major. But the big thing is, if I'm going several hours on the motorway to get a long way to a camping trip, how the hell am I carrying all my gear? This is the answer. This is the answer. This is a rack which I made up. Originally I was going to make it that I only had the option of having a flat top and not having the pannier bag racks at the side, but I realised that was a daft idea, but sod it, it's done now. At the back, I have some LED lights. These are just the usual crap that you buy off eBay for a few quid. They're okay. And this is where it mounts on. These feet with holes in. There's just some spare parts and tools that I've got on it for other purposes. So this rack sits there. So at the moment you can see I've got some screws in there. They are there as blanking plugs so that if it rains, the electrics inside the tailpiece don't get wet. Oh yeah, you'll notice that the top layer of polycarbonate is not on the tailpiece. That's because it's over there. Can you see that? Yeah, there you go. It's on the floor being painted in white at the moment, because the paint peeled off, started flaking off, so I took the whole lot off to do it again. And up there, you can see my Immortan Joe logo. So that will go on there, and this will be that will be sprayed on the back again. We'll go back to having Immortan Joe on the back. So you can see that the rack sits about there and there. You can see that the whole thing, the whole thing is quite a lot longer than the tailpiece. It's got to be big enough for me to actually get my tent on it. I've also got a gear sack bag which I could get on there. It's got these racks at the side which allow me to put panniers on it without them getting stuck in the wheel. So there's a bit of logic behind the madness. It does look like it's strong enough to support an oil rig. And I put some extra loops at the back there so that I've got something to stick bungees through. But yeah, this is the new rack. I'll show you how it works with the lights. You can see I've got this length of cable coming off the back of the lights, and it's got a 6-pin plug at the end of it which connects into the loom here. So just wedge that down the back of the seat, and at the back I've got the LEDs working there, which means that on there you've also got, if you're right behind, you see a shitload of light, but you have to be right behind it. If you can imagine that thing with panniers and a bag on the top, it means that unless you're really close to it, you're not going to see it. But with this sort of extra layer of lights at the back, it means that on the motorways everybody's going to be able to see it. The other thing I've done whilst I've got the lights on is these tubes here that I've wrapped around the handguards. Those are the tubes that you get to fit inside your the headlight cluster of a modern car. So you'll see that modern cars often have these bizarre funny shapes of LED tubes. Well, that's what these are. They are dirt cheap on eBay, and they are both indicator and white pilot light. Switch them off. You can get this. Is it focusing in on it? There. The tubes are standard are very white, but you can get this fly eye prismatic screen shit that Boy Racers put over the lights on their cars. But it just takes the edge off the whiteness. It means that I'm chucking out a bit more light when I'm on the motorway and I'm wearing black and it's a dark day and the motorbike is black. I want this thing to be chucking out as much light as possible because car drivers are concentrating on their phones and not the road, so bastards have to be given plenty of light to see with. And there's one other thing I've done. Let me get this. I made a screen. My hearing is suffering. I've been riding motorbikes for 20 years and my hearing is not as good as it should be. I wear earplugs. But what I've noticed from other bikes with screens is that if you have a screen, you can get your head behind the screen, which gets you out of the wind noise. And if I'm going to be on the motorway from Scotland to Gloucester, that's an awful lot of motorway driving. I don't want to be having my head blasted with the noisy wind. So I made this screen out of my old favourite polycarbonate sheet. You can see that it's got a lot of heat crazing, gas bubbling marks coming up. I heated this thing up and I belted the living shit out of it to try and shape it. Right, this is going to be awkward to fit. Right. These 4 mounting holes here line up with these, which you can't see because it's in the dark. The 4 mounting holes on here. This gap here fits quite conveniently down this gap here, which is there more by accident than design. So it allows me to, let's see if I can get this far enough away so that you guys can actually see it. I basically slide the screen, there you go, no, I'm not going to have to do. The bigger screen slides down in front of the other one. I have to have taken those 4 bolts out first. This tab goes down that gap and it sits in there. It's all right. So that's how the bike looks with in motorway trim, with a screen at the front and a rack at the back, so I can carry gear and I can get my head under there. The only problem is that on full lock, the handlebars hit into the screen, so I had to take a big chunk out of that. So if I make version 2 of this screen, which I probably will do for next year, I'll make it further forward and give me much more space. But now's not the time of year for doing that because it's the summer and it's time to be out on your bike, and I do lots of riding in the summer and winter is long and that can be my winter project. And so this is how I rode the bike all the way down the motorway, and I wouldn't say it was a doddle, but I got there. And the bike sits, I'm quite pleased. I didn't realise how fast it was, but it sits quite comfortably at motorway speeds. And you can sit in the outside lane and you can have all the sales reps and the executives in their BMWs and the gangsters in their 4-wheel drives, and they can all come hammering right up you, and I was able to keep pace with them. So I got to Gloucester, got to the Rat and Survival show, and I made it there. More than anything else, I made it there, and I was really, really pleased after all the work I did through the winter that the bike made it without any disasters. And best of all, I got to meet up with lots and lots of mates who I known for quite a while, but I don't see them very often because they all live at the far end of the country. So it was great to meet up with them, get pissed with them and have a laugh and take the piss out of each other. And then on the Saturday, we all entered our bikes in the show. And I was really pleased just to enter my bike into the custom show after all the work I've done and the distance I've done to get there. I just thought, you know what, to park my bike in here, this is it. Nice one, Chris, that's your achievement. And then a few hours later, Nick Sampson calls out or he contacted all the winners and he said, this bike's won something. And it turns out this bike has won Best Survival Bike. The rally is in its 21st year, so the prize was a key rather than the usual broken piston. So Best Survival Bike at the Rat and Survival Show 2018 went to the Scream, and I am pleased as punch. I did speak to Nick and he said that really the Changeling should have won the prize, but the Changeling wasn't starting at the time and it couldn't therefore be driven up to the main stage area where it could collect its prize. So this was the second best. But you know what, I'm happy with that. The Changeling is an iconic survival bike. It's far better survival bike than this one. Just a pity it wasn't working. So 2018 was the year for the Scream. So I am one very happy chappy because I'm just a bloke with a garage. I'm not a professional engineer. And there's some seriously tasty bikes that are seriously well built. Also win prizes at that show, so for me to win a prize there, I am absolutely over the moon, and I have to say more than a little surprised. So what else have I got to do now? Well, the answer is I've got to ride it. First thing, get this cover back onto here when that's painted up. The other thing I've done is this thing here. Can you see? Yeah, that's an Abus disc lock, and Abus makes this little plastic lock holding thing for bolting to your bicycle. Unfortunately, they only make it one way round, and so the bolt holes only go in from one side, so this was the only place I could find to actually mount it. This is the first version of the bracket to hold it. It's obviously too thin. It's made of steel. I don't like to use the heaviest weight of steel if I can avoid it. I've tried to use a lighter, thinner weight, but that's obviously not good enough because the whole thing vibrates too much. So pretty soon I'm going to have to make version 2 because I don't like the idea of that getting all bent up and mangling into my wheel. So I will make a neater version of this. But that's it. That's where we're at. This is the bike. It's on the road, it's being enjoyed. It's now June, it's the height of summer. I'm getting out and enjoying this bike, and it's fucking great. And if you want to contact me, do so in the comments, or find me on the various social or anti-social medias. And that's Big Chris signing out because he's riding his bike a lot. Bye.